On Christmas Eve, my brother burst into my house, his voice sharp as he announced, "From now on, we'll be celebrating here." I calmly sipped my cocoa and replied, "I hope you brought a tent." His face went pale when he noticed I was sitting by the fireplace, enjoying a peaceful Christmas Eve for the first time in years. The soft glow of the tree lights filled the room, and the familiar scent of cinnamon and pine was in the air. My cocoa was hot, with tiny marshmallows that melted just right. The house was calm and quiet. That peace shattered when the front door slammed open, so forcefully it seemed the hinges might break. Without turning to see who it was, I already knew. Ethan, my brother, stood in the doorway, out of breath, his face flushed, whether from the cold or his anger, I couldn't tell. His coat was half open, fists clenched. Behind him stood his wife, Rachel, arms crossed, her face tight with frustration. "We'll be celebrating here from now on," Ethan declared, as though it were a command. I took another slow sip of my cocoa. "I hope you brought a tent." His color drained. Rachel's breath caught as she braced herself for whatever came next. I set my mug down on the coffee table and leaned back. Something tells me this isn't just a friendly Christmas visit. Ethan's jaw tightened, as if holding back something volatile. I walked in on Dad. He paused, shaking his head as if unable to finish the thought. His voice dropped to a whisper. He was cheating on Mom, with a woman half his age, in their own house, on Christmas Eve. The room fell silent, save for the crackling of the fire. Rachel looked away, massaging her temples like she was trying to stave off a headache. "Mom lost it," Ethan continued, his hands running through his hair. "She screamed, threw things, cried." Dad just stood there, making excuses. "Then, she told us all to leave, kicked us out, even me and Rachel." I stared at him, waiting for the punchline that never came. Ethan shook his head. "She said she didn't want to see anyone, said Christmas was ruined, told me I had to choose, either support her, or live with that man." My stomach churned. Our mother wasn't one for idle threats. Ethan gave a bitter laugh. "So, we grabbed whatever we could and left. Thought we'd come here, since you're the only one with enough space." I exhaled slowly. "And you didn't think to call first?" He threw his hands up. "I was a little preoccupied with a family crisis, man." Finally, Rachel spoke, her voice low. "Look, we'll sleep on the floor if we have to. She paused, steadying herself. "I can't go to a hotel." My wallet was in my bag, and my bag was in the living room. I wasn't about to go back in there and get it while your mom was throwing wine glasses at your dad's head. I pressed my fingers against my temples. This was all too much to process. "Fine," I muttered, "but you're explaining this to my wife." Rachel exhaled in relief. Ethan nodded. Just as I was about to close the door, a car pulled up in the driveway. My stomach dropped. A familiar figure emerged, stepping into the snow. Mom. Her eyes were swollen, her face red from anger, betrayal, and exhaustion. She gripped the steering wheel so tightly I could see her knuckles from where I stood, and right then, I knew Christmas Eve had only just begun. Without bothering to turn off the engine, Mom yanked the door open and stepped out, her boots crunching in the snow. She still wore the same dress from the family dinner, but now there was a red stain on the front. Wine, maybe, or something worse. Her hair was a mess, mascara smudged under her eyes. Her gaze swept over Ethan, then Rachel, and finally landed on me. "Are you going to let me in, or do I have to stand out here all night?" Her voice was raw, like she'd been crying or shouting for hours. I stepped aside without a word. She walked past Ethan without a glance, and Rachel followed her with her eyes but stayed frozen by the door. Mom dropped her purse to the floor and headed straight for the kitchen. I heard the fridge open, the clink of bottles, expecting her to grab a bottle of wine. I was surprised when she instead pulled out a carton of orange juice and poured herself a glass with shaking hands. She took a long drink, then set the glass down with a deep sigh. Ethan leaned against the counter, arms crossed. "Mom, what the hell is going on?" She let out a dry laugh. "Oh, you mean besides Dad screwing a 20-year-old in my house? Besides my own son standing there like a lost puppy while I had to throw him out with the rest of the trash?" Ethan flinched at the words. "Mom," she held up a hand, "save it. I don't want your excuses." "You stood there, Ethan. You watched. You didn't say a damn thing until I had to kick him out." Ethan's face turned red. I was in shock. I didn't know what to do. "You should have done something," she snapped, slamming her hand onto the counter. "You should have stood up for me. You should have told him what a disgusting bastard he is." Ethan clenched his jaw, his fists tight at his sides. "I did, Mom, after you threw us out. I told him he was a selfish bastard, that he destroyed everything, that I'd never forgive him." Mom stared at him for a long moment, her breathing heavy, then she turned to me. "And you," she said, her voice quieter but no less sharp, "did you know?" I froze. The truth was, I hadn't known, at least not the details, not who it was with, and certainly not that it would happen on Christmas Eve. It had been building up for a while, the long hours Dad had been keeping, the last-minute trips, the way he'd started dressing differently, wearing cologne that wasn't part of his usual routine. The tension between him and Mom was hard to ignore, too. They barely spoke anymore, and when they did, it was strained, distant. I had a feeling, though I didn't speak up about it, but now, with Mom standing in front of me, her eyes full of accusation, I felt the weight of it all. Guilt hit me like a brick. The words I needed to say were trapped somewhere deep inside. Mom's face hardened, her lips twisting into a bitter laugh. "Of course you knew." Ethan's eyes narrowed, and he looked at me sharply. "Wait, you knew about this?" Rachel gasped, her face pale with shock. "Oh God." I swallowed hard, trying to find the right words. "I didn't know for sure. But you had your suspicions," Mom cut in, her voice like ice. I rubbed my neck, avoiding her gaze. "Yeah." The silence that followed was suffocating, heavy. Then, unexpectedly, Mom did something I didn't see coming. She smiled, a small, hollow smile, one filled with bitterness and something darker. "You know what's funny?" she said, her voice tinged with irony. "I came here to tell you both that I was done, that I was leaving him, that I wasn't going to waste another minute of my life on a man like him." She grabbed her purse from the counter and straightened her back. "But now I realize I don't have anyone left in this family I can trust." Her words hit like a slap to the face. "Mom, please," Ethan protested, taking a step toward her. "That's not fair." She spun on him, eyes blazing. "Not fair? You think any of this is fair, Ethan? I gave him 35 years of my life. I built a home with him. I raised you two with him. And on Christmas Eve, I find out he's been lying to me. And what do you two do? You just watch." Her voice cracked, and she took a shaky breath. "My own sons didn't even warn me." I could see the brokenness in her, the raw pain. It hit me harder than anything. She turned toward the door, clutching her purse like it was the only thing holding her together. "Rachel," her voice barely above a whisper, asked, "where are you going?" Mom reached for the doorknob. "Anywhere but here," she muttered, then stepped out into the night, the door closing softly behind her. The sound of it left an eerie silence in its wake. We all stood still for a moment, unsure of what to do next. The only sound in the house was the hum of the heater and the crackle of the fire. Ethan was the first to move, swearing under his breath as he grabbed his coat. "I'm going after her." Rachel shot him a concerned look. "Ethan, it's freezing out there." "I don't care," he snapped. "She shouldn't be out there alone right now." I exhaled, running a hand over my face. "She's not thinking clearly, she just needs some space." Ethan turned to me, his face flushed with anger. "Space? To decide if she'll ever talk to us again? Did you hear what she said? She doesn't trust us anymore." I shot back, my voice rising. "And what do you want me to do, Ethan? I can't change the past. I didn't know for sure, and even if I did, what was I supposed to do? Tell her and make everything fall apart even faster?" Ethan let out a sharp, humorless laugh. "Oh yeah, we wouldn't want to ruin Christmas any earlier, right?" Rachel stepped between us, her voice calm but firm. "Guys, stop, this isn't helping." Ethan shook his head, not listening. "I'm going after her." Before anyone could stop him, he stormed out into the night, the door slamming behind him. I ran a hand over my face, groaning, "This is a mess." Rachel, still standing there, crossed her arms, looking at me with frustration. "You seriously didn't think to tell anyone? Not even Ethan?" I gave her a tired look. Would it have changed anything? She didn't answer immediately. We both stood there in silence, the tension thick between us. Then my phone buzzed in my pocket. I pulled it out, frowning at the name on the screen. "Dad?" Rachel's eyes widened when she saw the caller ID. "You're not going to answer that, are you?" I hesitated, then reluctantly swiped the screen. "Hello?" There was a pause before Dad's shaky voice came through the line. "She's gone." I froze. "What?" Dad sighed heavily, his voice filled with panic. "Your mom, she left. She took the car and just drove off." My heart sank. Rachel, hearing my reaction, quickly asked, "What's going on?" I held up my hand, signaling for silence. "What do you mean she left?" "I mean," Dad's voice trembled, "she packed a bag, grabbed the keys, and just took off. She didn't say where she was going, just that she was done. She said she never wanted to see me again." I felt sick to my stomach. Dad let out a bitter laugh. I deserve that, don't I? I didn't answer. Listen, Dad continued, his voice quieter now. I know I messed up. I know I don't deserve her, but she's out there, and I don't know where she went. And it's Christmas Eve. I need to know she's safe. I rubbed my forehead, trying to think. She was just here. There was silence on the other end. Then Dad's voice returned, now urgent. Is she still there? I glanced at the door. No, she left a few minutes ago. Ethan went after her. Dad cursed under his breath. Damn it, we need to find her. Rachel looked at me, frustration mixed with disbelief. You're really going to help him, aren't you? I hesitated. Dad's voice was strained, quiet. She might not want to see me again, but if anything happens to her, I'll never forgive myself. I felt a knot form in my stomach. For all the pain he had caused, he was still my father, and Mom was out there alone in the dark, with no one knowing where she was. I had a choice to make, and deep down, I knew that no matter what, things were never going to be the same again. Christmas, betrayal, the weight of it all hit me harder than I was ready for. After I ended the call, I knew I was making a mistake, but it was too late to back out. Rachel was staring at me, disbelief written all over her face. Are you seriously going to help him? I sighed, rubbing my temples. Rachel, Mom's out there, alone, in the freezing cold. I don't care about Dad right now, I just need to find her. She folded her arms, shaking her head. And if he shows up? What if he tries to weasel his way back in? I didn't have an answer for that. Rachel exhaled, her frustration palpable. Fine, but I'm coming with you. We grabbed our coats, and I snatched my keys before stepping out into the cold. Ethan was nowhere to be seen. His footprints led away from the house, disappearing into the night. I tried calling him. No answer. I dialed Mom's number again, straight to voicemail. I muttered a curse under my breath, frustrated and confused. Where had they gone? Rachel shivered next to me. Where would your mom go when she's upset? I paused, my mind racing, and then it hit me. The lake house. We drove in silence. The roads empty except for the occasional passing car. The lake house wasn't far, maybe 20 minutes, but the weather made the short trip feel like forever. I gripped the steering wheel, knuckles white, thoughts swirling. What if Mom was there? What if she wasn't? What if Ethan found her first? Or Dad? Rachel broke the silence. What are you going to say to her? I shook my head, unsure. I don't know. I just want her to know she's not alone. Rachel gave me a small nod. Good. We turned onto the winding road that led to the lake house, the snow-covered trees casting strange shadows in the headlights. When we arrived, I saw 2 cars parked outside, Ethan's and Mom's. Rachel and I exchanged a brief glance before stepping out into the biting cold. The wind hit my face as we trudged toward the cabin. The lights were on inside, so someone was there. I knocked on the door once. No answer. I knocked harder the second time. The door creaked open, and there stood Ethan, his face flushed, whether from the cold or from whatever had just transpired between them. I wasn't sure. His eyes were wide, his jaw clenched. She's inside, he muttered. I stepped past him and saw her. Mom sat on the couch, wrapped in an old blanket, staring into the dimming fireplace. She looked small, lost. A lump formed in my throat. Mom? She didn't look at me. You shouldn't have come. I hesitated for a moment, then sat down across from her. Neither should you. She let out a weak laugh, but it didn't reach her eyes. I just needed to get away. I turned to Ethan. What happened? Ethan rubbed his face in frustration. She won't come home. Says she's done. Rachel, who had been silent until now, spoke up. Can you blame her? Ethan shot her a glare but didn't argue. I turned back to Mom. Where will you go? She met my eyes for the first time. I don't know. I just know I can't stay there anymore. An uncomfortable silence settled between us, thick with unspoken words. Then, the sound of another car pulling up outside made my stomach drop. We all knew who it was before we even saw him. Dad. The door swung open, and he stepped in. His usual swagger was gone, replaced by a defeated look. His coat was dusted with snow, and his eyes were bloodshot, as if he hadn't slept in days. Mom tensed. Ethan moved closer to her, protective. Rachel stayed still, her expression unreadable. Dad's voice was low. Can we talk? Mom let out a bitter laugh. Talk? Now you want to talk? Dad swallowed hard, his face full of regret. I know I don't deserve your forgiveness. You're damn right you don't, Ethan interjected, his voice trembling with anger. Dad looked at him, his eyes full of pain. I understand if you hate me, both of you, but this isn't about me, it's about her. He turned to Mom. I just needed to see you. Make sure you're okay. Mom shook her head, gripping the blanket tighter around her. You don't get to do this, Robert. You don't get to pretend to care now, not after everything. Dad's face twisted with guilt. I know, I ruined everything. I betrayed you. I hurt you, and I can never fix it. Mom's voice broke as she whispered, why? Dad turned away, jaw clenched. I don't know. Ethan scoffed loudly. Dad ran a hand through his hair, his shoulders slumped. I wish I had a good reason, some excuse that made sense, but I don't. I was selfish, I was stupid, and I destroyed the one thing that mattered. Mom took a shaky breath. Did you love her? Dad flinched. No. Mom's lip quivered. Then why was she worth throwing away 35 years? Dad's face crumpled. She wasn't. The room went silent. Rachel shifted uncomfortably. Ethan looked away. Mom wiped her eyes, sniffling quietly. You need to leave, Mom said softly, her voice trembling. Dad hesitated, then nodded slowly. He turned to Ethan and me. I know I don't deserve anything from you, but I hope one day you'll understand. Ethan's face was cold. I won't. Dad looked at me. I wanted to say something, anything, but I couldn't. He nodded as if he already knew what my answer was and turned to leave. We heard his car start, the tires crunching over the snow, and the engine slowly fading into the distance. Mom let out a long, shaky breath, her whole body trembling. Rachel sat beside her, squeezing her hand. Ethan stood near the fireplace, tense and unmoving. I sat there, staring at the floor, trying to make sense of everything. We stayed at the lake house that night, each of us lost in our thoughts. In the morning, Mom made coffee. Ethan and I sat at the table, sipping in silence. She looked at both of us and exhaled deeply. I'm going to file for divorce. Ethan nodded, his voice firm. Good. I swallowed hard. What do you need from us? Mom smiled faintly, sadness in her eyes. Just to know I'm not alone. For the first time in a long while, I knew she wasn't. None of us were. That Christmas was unlike any other. There were no big family dinners, no presents under the tree, no pretending everything was fine. But somehow, in the midst of the pain, it felt real. And maybe, just maybe, that was enough. Thanks for watching. See you again in the next video. Stay stunned.